Thunder split the sky as 19-year-old Sophia Johnson huddled against the rain beneath a sagging canvas awning, her soaked dress clinging to her large frame while the hostile eyes of Jackson, Wyoming's townsfolk, bored into her back. She'd arrived only yesterday and already understood that in this remote corner of Wyoming territory in 1876, she was considered nothing but a burden and unwanted mouth to feed in a town that valued utility above all else. Get that fat girl inside before she scares the horses. A man shouted from the saloon porch across the muddy street, causing raucous laughter to erupt around him. Sophia wrapped her arms tighter around herself, trying to disappear despite knowing that was impossible. At nearly 300 pounds, she'd never been able to hide, not from the cruel taunts in her Boston hometown, not from her father's disgust, and certainly not here in Jackson, where her uncle had reluctantly taken her in after her parents' death, only to announce this morning that he couldn't afford another dependent. "She'll eat us out of house and home," he declared to his wife while Sophia listened from the next room. "I've arranged something with Thaddeus Wilkes. He needs a cook for his ranch hands, and he's willing to take her." The arrangement became clear when Sophia watched her uncle lead his newly acquired chestnut mare to the stable payment for ridding himself of his burdensome niece. "Come on, girl. Rain's not letting up." A gruff voice startled her from her thoughts. Thaddeus Wilkes stood beside her, a weathered man in his 50s with a face like tanned leather and eyes that assessed her worth as though she were livestock. "Wagon's ready. Time to earn your keep." Sophia had no choice. With her parents dead, her inheritance squandered by her father's gambling, and her uncle having literally traded her away, she followed Wilkes to his mud-splattered wagon. "Worth a decent horse, are you?" he muttered, helping her climb aboard with surprising strength. "We'll see about that." The wagon lurched forward, carrying Sophia away from Jackson and toward an uncertain future at the W Ranch, 10 miles outside of town. She held tight to her single carpet bag, containing all that remained of her former life: 2 dresses, her mother's silver hairbrush, and a dog-eared copy of Pride and Prejudice. As they crested a hill, Sophia caught her first glimpse of the vast Wyoming landscape stretching before them, untamed, beautiful, and utterly indifferent to her fate. What she couldn't see, riding 20 miles behind them on the same trail, was Samuel Carter, a young cowboy returning to Jackson after delivering a string of horses to the territorial capital. His prized black stallion, Thunder, moved with powerful strides beneath him, unaware that he would soon become part of a transaction that would change everything. The W Ranch sprawled across a valley backed by the distant Tetons, its buildings weathered but sturdy against Wyoming's harsh elements. By the time Thaddeus Wilkes's wagon pulled into the ranch yard, Sophia was thoroughly soaked, chilled to the bone, and fighting back tears. 5 men emerged from the bunkhouse, eyeing the wagon with curiosity that quickly turned to disbelief when they spotted Sophia. "Boys, meet our new cook," Wilkes announced, climbing down from the wagon. "Miss Johnson here is going to be keeping your bellies full." A tall, lanky cowhand removed his hat, revealing sun-bleached hair. "Where'd you find her, boss?" "Her uncle traded her for that new mare I brought back." Wilkes chuckled. "Said she could cook, and Lord knows we need someone who can make something besides beans and jerky." Sophia felt her face burn with humiliation. Traded for a horse like she wasn't even human. The men's stares made her stomach clench, but she lifted her chin, determined not to show weakness. "Show her the cookhouse, Elmer," Wilkes ordered. "She starts today." An older man with a gray mustache approached the wagon. "Come on, miss. Let's get you settled." With difficulty, Sophia climbed down, mud sucking at her boots as Elmer led her to a small building attached to the main house. "It ain't much, but it's dry," he said, pushing open the door to reveal a sparse room with a cast-iron stove, a rough wooden table, shelves stocked with supplies, and a narrow cot in the corner. "You sleep in here too. Boss doesn't want you in the main house." Sophia nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. "Breakfast at sunrise, dinner at noon, supper at dusk," Elmer continued. "8 men total, including the boss. Hope you can cook as well as your uncle claimed." After he left, Sophia sank onto the cot and finally allowed herself to weep, not loud, racking sobs, but silent tears that streamed down her round cheeks. She'd been raised in comfort, educated as a lady, and now she was property, exchanged for a horse. When her tears subsided, Sophia surveyed the cookhouse more carefully. It was dirty, disorganized, but well stocked. Taking a deep breath, she rolled up her sleeves. If cooking was to be her salvation, she would cook like her life depended on it, because perhaps it did. By the time the dinner bell rang at noon, Sophia had prepared a hearty beef stew with dumplings, fresh bread, and apple cobbler from the stored preserves she'd found. The men filed in, suspicion written across their faces as they filled their plates. The first tentative bites gave way to appreciative murmurs. "Damn," whispered one of the younger hands. "This beats Elmer's cooking by a country mile." "Watch your language in front of the lady," Elmer growled, but he too was eating with gusto. Wilkes entered last, filling his plate without acknowledging Sophia. He took a bite, chewed thoughtfully, then nodded. "Not bad, Johnson, not bad at all." It wasn't praise exactly, but Sophia felt a small spark of hope. Perhaps she could earn a measure of respect, if not her freedom. That evening, after serving supper and cleaning the kitchen, Sophia sank onto her cot, exhausted beyond words. Her back ached, her feet throbbed, and her hands were raw from scrubbing. She'd never worked so hard in her life, yet there was an odd satisfaction in having proven her worth, if only in the kitchen. She drifted to sleep with one thought circling in her mind. Someday, somehow, she would find a way to be more than just the fat girl who was traded for a horse. 3 days later, Samuel Carter rode into Jackson, leading 2 pack horses laden with supplies. At 26, Sam had spent nearly half his life in the saddle, working cattle drives and horse trading from Texas to Montana. His lean, muscular frame and sun-bronzed face spoke of years under the western sky, while the quiet confidence in his green eyes had been earned through hard work and fair dealings. He guided Thunder toward the livery stable, drawing admiring glances from passers-by. The black stallion was magnificent, 17 hands of pure power with a gleaming coat and intelligent eyes. Sam had raised him from a colt, training him with patience and respect rather than the harsh methods favored by many horsemen. "Fine animal," commented the livery owner as Sam dismounted. "You selling?" Sam shook his head. "Not for any price." After settling his horses, Sam headed to the general store to arrange for his supplies to be delivered to his small homestead 5 miles north of town. As he waited for the storekeeper to tally his purchases, he overheard 2 women gossiping. "Can you believe Everett Johnson actually traded his niece to Thaddeus Wilkes?" one whispered. "For a horse, no less." Well, what else was he to do with her? Size of a barn door, that girl, must eat enough for 3 men. Still, trading her like cattle. Sam frowned, disturbed by what he was hearing. "Excuse me, ladies," he interrupted. "Did I understand correctly that someone traded a woman for a horse?" The women looked startled, then embarrassed. "It's not like that exactly," the older one said. "Everett Johnson's niece arrived from back east. Parents died, left her penniless. Everett couldn't afford another mouth to feed, especially one that size. Wilkes needed a cook, so they made an arrangement. And the horse? Well, the woman sniffed. Everett did get that chestnut mare in return. But I'm sure that was just Wilkes being generous. Sam's jaw tightened. He'd seen many troubling things in his years on the frontier, but the casual disposal of a human being rankled him deeply. Which way to the Johnson place? He asked. 20 minutes later, Sam stood on Everett Johnson's porch, having tied Thunder to the hitching post. "What can I do for you?" Johnson asked, eyeing Sam warily. "I hear you recently acquired a horse in an unusual transaction." Johnson's face reddened. "That's my business." "I'd like to see the animal," Sam persisted. Reluctantly, Johnson led him to a small corral where the chestnut mare grazed. She was a decent horse, good lines, probably 4 or 5 years old. "How much?" Sam asked. "She's not for sale." Sam turned to face Johnson squarely. "I understand you received her in exchange for your niece." Johnson's expression hardened. "Look here, stranger, that's a family matter. Sophia's better off with Wilkes. He needed a cook, she needs a place. It was a practical solution." "I'm making you an offer," Sam said coldly. "My stallion for your mare, and you tell me where to find your niece." Johnson stared, dumbfounded. "You're offering that black stallion for this mare and information. You're either crazy or the worst horse trader I've ever met." "Maybe both," Sam agreed. "Do we have a deal?" Johnson couldn't agree fast enough, clearly recognizing he was getting the better end of the bargain. After signing over the mare and getting directions to the W Ranch, Sam mounted Thunder one last time. "Why would you do this?" Johnson asked, still baffled. Sam looked down at him with unconcealed contempt. "Because some things shouldn't happen, even in Wyoming." He patted Thunder's neck. "And some partnerships can't be measured in dollars." With that, he rode away, leaving a confused Everett Johnson standing beside the magnificent stallion he'd just acquired. The W Ranch was busy with activity when Sam arrived the following afternoon. Cowhands mended fences while others worked with horses in the corral. He rode the chestnut mare directly to the main house, where a burly man he assumed was Thaddeus Wilkes emerged onto the porch. "You lost, mister," Wilkes called. Sam dismounted smoothly. "Looking for you, actually. Thaddeus Wilkes." "That's me. What's your business?" "Samuel Carter." Sam extended his hand. "I've come about Sophia Johnson." Wilkes's expression darkened. "What about her?" "I understand you acquired her services recently. I'd like to speak with her. She's busy, got meals to prepare for my men." Sam nodded toward the cookhouse where smoke curled from the chimney. "In there." "Now wait just a minute," Wilkes began, but Sam was already striding toward the cookhouse. He knocked on the door, waiting until a female voice called, "Come in." Inside, Sophia stood at a work table, flour dusting her hands as she kneaded bread dough. She looked up, surprise registering in her warm brown eyes when she saw a stranger rather than one of the ranch hands. Sam removed his hat. "Miss Johnson, I'm Samuel Carter." Sophia wiped her hands on her apron, confusion evident on her face. She was younger than he'd expected, perhaps 19 or 20, with rich auburn hair tied back in a practical bun. Her face was pretty, with expressive eyes and full lips, though anxiety had carved lines around her mouth. Yes, she was large, her substantial frame filling out her simple dress, but there was a dignity in the way she held herself. "Can I help you, Mr. Carter?" she asked cautiously. Before Sam could respond, Wilkes burst through the door. "Carter, I don't know what you're playing at, but you need to state your business or get off my property." Sam turned to face him calmly. "Fair enough. I'm here to offer you a trade." "I'm not interested in trading." "Hear me out," Sam insisted. "I've brought you Everett Johnson's chestnut mare. In exchange, I'd like to take Miss Johnson off your hands." Sophia gasped, her face flushing crimson. I am not a commodity to be traded. Sam held up a placating hand. My apologies, Miss Johnson. I'm not expressing myself well. He turned back to Wilkes. The truth is, I don't approve of how you acquired Miss Johnson's services. I'm offering you the chance to undo that arrangement. Wilkes crossed his arms. And why would I do that? She's the best cook this ranch has ever had. Because the mare is worth more than a cook, Sam replied steadily. And because it's the right thing to do. A tense silence filled the cookhouse. Sophia looked between the two men, confusion and hurt evident in her expression. Mr. Carter, she finally said, her voice quavering slightly, while I appreciate your concern, I'm not a stray dog to be rescued. I have an arrangement with Mr. Wilkes. An arrangement made without your consent, Sam pointed out. Nevertheless, it's done. I cook, I have a roof over my head. She lifted her chin. I've managed worse situations. Sam studied her, admiring her pride despite everything. What if I offered you employment instead? Fair wages, your own cabin on my homestead. Doing what exactly? Suspicion laced her words. The same. Cooking, housekeeping. But as an employee, not as property. Wilkes snorted. This is ridiculous. She stays here. Let Miss Johnson decide, Sam countered. Sophia looked bewildered by this sudden turn of events. I don't even know you, Mr. Carter. No, you don't, he acknowledged. But I can promise you'll be treated with respect. And if you're unhappy, I'll bring you back to town and pay for your stage ticket anywhere you want to go. Wilkes stepped closer to Sophia. You have an obligation here, girl. I made a deal. A deal for a human being, Sam said coldly, which isn't worth the breath used to make it. Something shifted in Sophia's expression, a flash of hope quickly tempered by caution. Why would you do this, Mr. Carter? What do you really want from me? The directness of her question caught Sam off guard. Honestly, I heard about your situation in town. It didn't sit right with me. No one deserves to be traded like cattle. So this is charity. The word clearly tasted bitter in her mouth. Call it justice, Sam replied. Or maybe just basic human decency. Wilkes spat on the floor. You can take your decency and I'll go, Sophia interrupted, surprising both men. I accept your offer, Mr. Carter. Wilkes's face darkened. Now see here, the mayor is outside, Sam cut in. Fair trade for Miss Johnson's contract, whatever it was. He turned to Sophia. Can you be ready to leave in 10 minutes, she nodded, already untying her apron. This is robbery, Wilkes protested. No, Sam replied evenly. This is making things right. Miss Johnson is a person, not property to be bartered. 15 minutes later, Sophia sat beside Sam on the wagon seat, her small carpet bag and a hastily packed box of personal items in the back. She hadn't said a word since they'd left the ranch, her hands clutching the edge of the seat so tightly her knuckles were white. I realize this is sudden, Sam said finally. But I meant what I said. You'll have proper employment, fair wages. If you're uncomfortable, I'll take you wherever you want to go. Sophia turned to study him, her gaze assessing. Why did you really do this, Mr. Carter? And please don't say justice or decency. Men don't trade valuable horses for abstract principles. Sam was silent for a long moment, guiding the wagon around a deep rut in the trail. My mother was sold, he said finally. Not officially, slavery was already abolished, but practically. She was a housekeeper for a wealthy family in Missouri. When they moved west, they transferred her contract to another family for the price of a wagon and team. She had no say in the matter. He felt Sophia's gaze on him. What happened to her? She ran away. Met my father, a freighter. They married, had me. She died when I was 14. He glanced at Sophia. She taught me that a person's worth isn't measured by their usefulness to others. Sophia looked away, blinking rapidly. I'm sorry about your mother. It was a long time ago. Sam cleared his throat. My place isn't much. Small cabin barn, about 80 acres. I raise horses, mostly. Do some cattle work for neighboring ranches when cash runs short. You live alone, just me and the horses. They fell silent again as the wagon crested a hill. Below them stretched a small valley, greener than the surrounding landscape. A neat cabin stood near a creek, with a corral and modest barn beside it. Fields of grass rippled in the afternoon breeze. "It's beautiful," Sophia said softly. Sam felt an unexpected surge of pride. "It's home." They arrived at the cabin as the sun began its descent toward the western mountains. Sam helped Sophia down from the wagon, noticing her wince as her feet touched the ground. "Are you hurt?" he asked. She shook her head. "Just sore. I'm not used to being on my feet all day cooking." The cabin was simple but clean, with a main room containing a stone fireplace, wooden table with 4 chairs, and a cushioned rocking chair. A curtained doorway led to a small bedroom. "You'll take the bedroom," Sam said, setting her bag inside the door. "I'll sleep in the barn until I can build proper quarters for myself." Sophia looked alarmed. "I can't put you out of your home, Mr. Carter." "Sam," he corrected. "And you're not putting me out. I sleep in the barn half the time anyway, keeping an eye on new foals or sick horses." He showed her the basics of the cabin: the pump at the kitchen sink, the woodpile, the pantry stocked with staples. "I'm afraid it's too late to start dinner tonight. We can make do with bread and preserves." Sophia squared her shoulders. "I can prepare something proper." "It's why you brought me here, isn't it? To cook," Sam frowned. "I brought you here to give you a choice, Miss Johnson. You don't have to earn your keep on your first night." "Sophia," she said quietly, "and I'd prefer to be useful." He recognized the pride in her stance, the need to prove her worth. "All right. I'll get your box from the wagon while you acquaint yourself with the kitchen." Later, after a simple but delicious meal of salt pork, potatoes, and the last of Sophia's bread from the W Ranch, they sat in awkward silence at the table. "The cooking arrangements at Wilkes's place," Sam ventured. "Were they difficult?" Sophia's lips pressed into a tight line. "The cookhouse was filthy when I arrived. The stove smoked, half the pans were rusted through, and the men expected 3 hot meals a day with fresh bread at each." "And did they treat you well otherwise?" She hesitated. "No one was cruel, if that's what you're asking." "There were comments about my size, of course. There always are." Her tone was matter of fact, but Sam could see the hurt beneath her composed expression. "That won't happen here," he said firmly. Sophia gave him a sad smile. "You're kind to say so, but I'm accustomed to it. I've been large my entire life. My own father could barely stand the sight of me." The casual way she mentioned such cruelty made Sam's chest tighten with anger. "Well, your father was a fool," he said bluntly. Surprise flickered across her face, followed by a genuine smile that transformed her features, bringing a sparkle to her brown eyes. "That's the first time anyone has ever taken my side against him." "Won't be the last," Sam promised. "Now I should see to the horses before full dark." "Make yourself comfortable. We'll sort out your duties and wages in the morning." As he walked to the barn, Sam found himself unsettled. He'd acted on impulse, driven by memories of his mother and a sense of outrage at Sophia's treatment. Now he had a young woman living in his home, a complicated situation for a man who'd grown accustomed to solitude. Yet something about Sophia Johnson touched him. Not pity, exactly, but admiration for her dignity in the face of humiliation. And anger at a world that would judge her solely on her appearance, rather than the strength of character that shone through her eyes. "What have you gotten yourself into, Carter?" he muttered to himself as he forked hay to the horses. But as he glanced back at the cabin, where lamplight now glowed warmly in the gathering dusk, he couldn't bring himself to regret his impulsive trade. no matter what complications might lie ahead. The next morning, Sophia awoke disoriented in the unfamiliar bed. For a moment, panic seized her as she tried to remember where she was. Then it all came rushing back: the humiliating trade, the cookhouse at the Double W, and the unexpected appearance of Samuel Carter. Sunlight streamed through the small window, indicating she had slept later than intended. At Wilkes's ranch, she would have been up before dawn to prepare breakfast for the hungry cowhands. Hastily, she dressed in one of her 2 remaining dresses, pinning her thick auburn hair into a simple bun before venturing into the main room. The cabin was empty, but a fire crackled in the stone hearth and fresh coffee bubbled in a pot at the edge of the flames. A note lay on the table, written in a surprisingly elegant hand: "Gone to check fence line. Back mid-morning. Please make yourself at home." Sophia stood uncertainly in the middle of the room. What did "make yourself at home" mean exactly? Was she expected to begin her duties immediately? Would he be angry to find breakfast not waiting upon his return? Taking a deep breath, she decided that regardless of his expectations, she would establish her value immediately. She explored the kitchen area, finding it basic but well organized. The pantry contained flour, sugar, coffee, beans, and various preserves. A trapdoor in the floor revealed a small root cellar stocked with potatoes, carrots, and apples. In the springhouse behind the cabin, she discovered milk, butter, and eggs. By the time she heard hoofbeats approaching an hour later, Sophia had prepared a hearty breakfast of flapjacks, bacon, and fried potatoes. The table was set, coffee poured, and the kitchen tidied. Sam entered, removing his hat and looking surprised at the spread before him. "You didn't have to do this," he said, though his appreciative glance at the food belied his words. "I wanted to," Sophia replied. "Please, eat while it's hot." They sat across from each other, an uncomfortable silence stretching between them until Sam finally spoke. "I need to be clear about something, Sophia. I didn't bring you here to be my servant." She looked up sharply. "Then why did you bring me here?" "I told you, because what happened to you was wrong." "So it is charity." Her tone was flat. Sam set down his fork with a sigh. "It's not charity. It's a business arrangement. You'll cook, help keep the place in order, maybe tend the garden. In return, you get a safe place to live, meals, and wages, $20 a month." Sophia's eyes widened. It was a generous sum for a housekeeper's position, especially one that included room and board. "That's too much," she protested. "It's fair," Sam countered. "You'll work hard for it, I expect." "What else will be expected of me?" she asked, the wariness in her voice unmistakable. Sam's face darkened as he understood her meaning. "Nothing of that nature, ever. You have my word." The sincerity in his green eyes made Sophia believe him, though experience had taught her to be cautious about men's promises. "Thank you," she said simply. "There's something else." Sam reached into his pocket and withdrew a small key. "This is yours. It fits the lock on the bedroom door. Use it if it makes you feel safer." The gesture, so thoughtful, so respectful of her fears, brought unexpected tears to Sophia's eyes. She took the key, closing her fingers around it. "I appreciate that." Sam nodded, turning his attention back to his breakfast. "This is delicious, by the way. Best flapjacks I've had in years." As the days passed, Sophia settled into life at Sam's homestead. The work was hard but satisfying: cooking meals, tending the vegetable garden, mending clothes, and keeping the cabin clean. Unlike at the Double W Ranch, here she set her own pace, free from constant scrutiny and degrading comments. Sam kept his word, treating her with unfailing respect. He took his meals with her, sharing stories of his travels throughout the West, listening attentively when she occasionally spoke of her life before coming to Wyoming. At night, He retired to the small lean-to he'd built adjoining the barn, giving Sophia complete privacy in the cabin. A tentative friendship began to form between them, built on small daily interactions. Sam noticed that Sophia struggled with the heavy water bucket and installed a proper pump in the kitchen. Sophia observed that Sam's shirts were frayed at the cuffs and collars, and mended them so skillfully the repairs were nearly invisible. One evening, about 2 weeks after her arrival, Sophia was kneading bread dough when Sam entered the cabin, carrying a large parcel wrapped in brown paper. "This came for you," he said, setting it on the table. "I was in town picking up supplies." Sophia frowned, wiping flour from her hands. "For me, but no one knows I'm here. I took the liberty of informing the general store that you're working for me now," Sam explained, "in case you needed to order anything." Curious, Sophia untied the string and unwrapped the package to find 3 lengths of fabric, a practical blue cotton, a warm brown wool, and a pretty green calico, along with thread, buttons, and a packet of needles. "I noticed your dresses are wearing thin," Sam said, looking slightly uncomfortable. "Mrs. Abernathy at the store helped me select appropriate materials. She said you could make new ones with these." Sophia stared at the fabrics, touching the soft wool with disbelieving fingers. It had been so long since anyone had given her a gift, let alone something so thoughtful and practical. "This is too much," she whispered. Sam shook his head. "It's not charity if that's what you're thinking. Consider it an advance on your wages. Or better yet, just accept it as something you need and deserve." Sophia looked up at him, a complex mixture of emotions welling in her chest. "Thank you, Sam," he nodded, clearly embarrassed by her gratitude. "Well, I'll leave you to your bread. I need to check on the mare that's about to foal." After he left, Sophia sat at the table, running her hands over the fabrics, overwhelmed by the simple kindness of the gesture. Her entire life, she'd been made to feel that she deserved less than others because of her size, less respect, less consideration, less opportunity. Yet here was this man who hardly knew her, treating her not just as an equal, but as someone worthy of thoughtfulness. That night, after Sam had gone to his quarters in the barn, Sophia removed her mother's silver hairbrush from her carpet bag. It was her most precious possession, one of the few beautiful things she'd been allowed to keep. As she brushed her long auburn hair, she studied her reflection in the small mirror above the washstand. The face that looked back at her was changing subtly. The perpetual worry lines between her brows had softened. Her brown eyes appeared brighter, her cheeks flushed with health from working outdoors in the garden. She was still fat, that hadn't changed, but somehow, here on this remote homestead, that fact seemed less defining. For the first time in years, Sophia fell asleep without the heavy weight of shame pressing on her chest. The next morning, Sophia was hanging laundry on the line when she heard Sam calling urgently from the barn. She hurried across the yard, her heart racing. "What's wrong?" she asked as she entered the dim interior. Sam knelt beside a chestnut mare who lay on her side in a bed of straw, her sides heaving. "The foal's coming, but something's not right. I need your help." Sophia hesitated. "I don't know anything about horses." "I just need another pair of hands," Sam explained. "The foal is positioned wrong. I need to turn it, but I can't hold the mare steady and work at the same time." Taking a deep breath, Sophia knelt beside him in the straw. "Tell me what to do." For the next hour, they worked together in tense concentration. Sam guided her hands, showing her how to comfort the distressed mare while he worked to reposition the foal. Sophia followed his instructions, her initial fear giving way to focused determination. "That's it," Sam murmured, more to the mare than to Sophia. "Easy now, girl." Finally, with one last mighty effort from the exhausted mare, the foal slid into the world, a gangly, wet creature that lay motionless on the straw. "Is it dead?" Sophia whispered. Sam quickly cleared mucus from the foal's nostrils and mouth. "Not if I can help it." He rubbed the tiny body vigorously with straw, stimulating circulation. After a heart-stopping moment, the foal gave a shuddering breath and raised its head. "There we go," Sam exclaimed, relief evident in his voice. "Good boy." The mare nickered softly, turning her head to sniff her offspring. Sam sat back on his heels, watching as the foal made his first wobbly attempts to stand. "He's beautiful," Sophia said, entranced by the miracle she'd just witnessed. Sam looked at her, a new warmth in his expression. "You did well. Most city folks would have fainted at the sight." "I'm not most city folks," she replied with a small smile. "No," he agreed softly. "You certainly aren't." In that moment, something shifted between them, a new understanding born of shared struggle and triumph. Sophia became acutely aware of their proximity, of the straw clinging to Sam's dark hair, of the strength in his hands that had so carefully guided new life into the world. Sam cleared his throat, breaking the spell. "We should let them bond now. I'll check back in an hour." Outside the barn, Sophia paused to catch her breath, oddly shaken by the experience. She'd come to respect Sam over the past weeks, to appreciate his fairness and quiet strength. But this was different, a flutter of awareness that had nothing to do with gratitude and everything to do with the man himself. It was dangerous territory, she knew. A man like Samuel Carter, handsome, capable, kind, could never see a woman of her size as anything more than a housekeeper. To imagine otherwise would only lead to humiliation. With renewed determination, Sophia returned to her laundry, pushing away the foolish thoughts. She had a secure position and a decent employer. That would have to be enough. As summer progressed into early autumn, life at the homestead fell into a comfortable rhythm. Sam worked with his horses, occasionally taking trips to sell trained animals in nearby settlements. Sophia managed the household, putting up preserves from the garden harvest and preparing for the coming winter. On a crisp September evening, Sam returned from a 3-day absence, leading 2 new horses he'd acquired in trade. Sophia waited on the porch, fighting the ridiculous urge to smooth her hair or adjust her newly sewn green dress. The separation had made her uncomfortably aware of how much she'd come to enjoy Sam's company, his quiet conversations over dinner, his occasional dry humor, the way his presence filled the small cabin with a sense of security she'd never known. "Welcome back," she called as he rode into the yard. Sam's face brightened when he saw her. "Sophia, something smells wonderful." "Venison stew," she replied. "Mr. Hargrove from the next valley brought us half a deer yesterday, said it was payment for your help with his mare last month." Sam dismounted, stretching his back after the long ride. Neighborly of him. "Let me just settle these horses and I'll be in." Later, as they ate at the kitchen table, Sam slid a small package across to Sophia. "Brought you something from town." Inside, Sophia found a slim volume of poetry, Tennyson's works, bound in blue cloth with gold lettering. "I noticed you reading that novel of yours over and over," Sam explained. "Thought you might like something different." Sophia ran her fingers over the beautiful cover, deeply touched. In Boston, she'd loved books, finding in them an escape from the rejection she faced in the real world. Here in Wyoming, she'd had only her dog-eared copy of Pride and Prejudice for companionship during lonely evenings. "This is so thoughtful," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you." Sam shifted uncomfortably, as he always did when she expressed gratitude. "It's nothing. Just saw it and thought of you." The simple phrase, "thought of you," warmed Sophia more than it should have. "How was your trip otherwise?" she asked, trying to redirect her unruly feelings. Profitable. Sold 2 horses to the cavalry, traded for these new ones. He hesitated, then added, I heard some news in town. Your uncle is looking for you. Sophia stiffened. Why would he care where I am? He traded me away readily enough. Apparently, Thaddeus Wilkes has been making noise about being cheated, claims I stole his cook. Sam's expression hardened. Your uncle is worried about his reputation. Not about me, Sophia noted bitterly. No, Sam agreed. Not about you. She set down her spoon, appetite gone. What does this mean? Nothing necessarily. I made it clear to several people in town that you're employed here legally with fair wages. But I thought you should know. Sam studied her face. Are you afraid of your uncle? Not afraid exactly, but I have no desire to see him again. You won't have to, Sam said firmly. This is your home now for as long as you want it to be. Home. Such a simple word, yet so potent. Sophia had lived in many places, but none had felt like home until this small cabin with its stone hearth and the quiet man who sat across from her. The danger in that realization made her voice sharper than intended when she replied. Until you marry, you mean? No wife would want a fat housekeeper living under the same roof. Sam looked startled by her tone. I have no plans to marry. All men say that until the right woman comes along, Sophia said, rising to clear the dishes. Is that what you're worried about? Being displaced? She kept her back to him as she worked at the wash basin. It's inevitable, isn't it? You're an attractive man, Sam. Eventually, some pretty girl in town will catch your eye. A long silence followed her words. Finally, Sam said quietly, You're assuming quite a lot about my preferences. Sophia turned to find him watching her with an unreadable expression. Before she could respond, he stood. I should check on the new horses, he said abruptly. Thank you for dinner. After he left, Sophia sank into a chair, her hands trembling slightly. She'd revealed too much, letting her insecurities show. Worse, she'd implied an interest that went beyond employer and employee, an interest that could only embarrass them both if acknowledged. The arrival of October brought the first dusting of snow to the valley. Sam spent long days preparing the homestead for winter, splitting wood, repairing the barn roof, smoking meat, and ensuring the horses had adequate shelter. Sophia worked equally hard, canning the last vegetables from the garden, sewing warm quilts, and stocking the pantry with provisions that would see them through the isolated winter months. Their conversation about marriage was not mentioned again, though a new awkwardness occasionally surfaced between them, especially in the quiet evenings when they sat by the fire, Sam whittling or mending tack, Sophia sewing or reading from her treasured poetry book. On a particularly cold morning, Sam announced he needed to make one final trip to Jackson before winter set in properly. I'll leave at first light tomorrow, be back the day after, he told Sophia as she served breakfast. Is there anything you need from town? Some more yarn for knitting would be nice, she replied. And perhaps some cinnamon if Mr. Peterson has any at the general store. Sam nodded. I'll see what I can find. That evening, as they ate supper, Sam seemed preoccupied. Finally, he set down his fork and looked directly at Sophia. I've been thinking, he began, about what you said, about marriage. Sophia's heart sank. Oh, you were right that a wife wouldn't want another woman living in the house. He took a deep breath. Which is why I've been building a separate cabin for myself on the other side of the barn. Sophia stared at him, confused. But why? This is your home. And now it's yours too, he said simply. I want you to feel secure here, Sophia. To know that regardless of what happens in the future, you have a place that belongs to you. Tears pricked at her eyes. No one had ever considered her future so thoughtfully, had ever tried to give her security rather than take it away. You're a good man, Samuel Carter, she whispered. A faint color touched his cheekbones. "I try to be." He stood, seeming suddenly restless. "I should finish packing for tomorrow." "Good night, Sophia." After he left, Sophia sat alone by the fire, her mind and heart in turmoil. Sam's gesture was generous, unbelievably so. Yet it also seemed to confirm what she had always known, that he saw her only as someone to be cared for, protected, never as a woman to be desired. The realization hurt more than it should have. The next morning, Sophia rose early to prepare a hot breakfast before Sam's departure. He ate quickly, thanked her, and was gone before the sun had fully cleared the eastern mountains. Alone in the cabin, Sophia went about her usual tasks, trying to ignore the emptiness that seemed to echo in Sam's absence. It was foolish, she told herself, to miss a man who had been gone less than 2 hours. More foolish still to have allowed herself to develop feelings for him. By mid-afternoon, the sky had darkened ominously, and fat snowflakes began to fall. Sophia watched with growing concern as the gentle snowfall quickly transformed into a fierce storm, the wind howling around the cabin's eaves and snow piling against the windows. "Please be in town already," she whispered, thinking of Sam on the trail in such weather. As darkness fell, the storm intensified. Sophia stoked the fire higher, lit extra lamps to ward off the gloom, and tried to focus on her mending. But worry gnawed at her. Sam was an experienced frontiersman, she reminded herself. He knew how to survive Wyoming's harsh conditions. Still, accidents happened, horses went lame, trails disappeared under snow. By midnight, the storm had become a full blizzard. Sophia paced the cabin, peering uselessly into the swirling whiteness outside the windows. Finally, she pulled on her heavy coat, lit a lantern, and ventured out to the barn to check on the horses and make sure all was secure. The cold took her breath away, the short distance to the barn becoming treacherous in the knee-deep snow and howling wind. Inside, the horses nickered nervously, disturbed by the storm. Sophia moved among them, speaking softly, checking water and hay. The pregnant mare Sam had helped months ago now, with a sturdy colt at her side, nuzzled Sophia's shoulder as if sensing her distress. "He'll be all right," Sophia told the horse, needing to hear the words aloud. "He has to be." She spent an hour in the barn, finding comfort in the routine tasks and animal companionship. When she finally returned to the cabin, exhausted and chilled, she was surprised to find the door slightly ajar, snow drifting across the threshold. Heart pounding, she pushed it open wider, lifting her lantern to illuminate the interior. Sam stood by the fire, his clothes caked with snow, his face haggard with fatigue. He turned at her entrance, relief washing over his features. "Sophia, where were you? I was about to go searching." She nearly dropped the lantern in her rush to close the door against the storm. "I was in the barn, checking the horses. What are you doing here? You should be in Jackson." "I turned back when the storm hit," he explained, removing his snow-covered coat. "Barely made it before the trail disappeared completely." Now that the initial shock had passed, Sophia noticed how pale Sam looked, how he favored his left arm. "You're hurt," she said, setting down the lantern and moving closer. Sam grimaced. "Horse slipped on some ice. We both went down." "Nothing serious, but I think my shoulder's dislocated." "Sit," Sophia commanded, guiding him to a chair. "Let me look." With careful hands, she helped him remove his shirt, revealing a muscular shoulder now swollen and discolored. Sam winced as she gently probed the injury. "It's definitely dislocated," she confirmed. "I've seen this before. My father's groom had the same injury when I was a girl. The doctor showed us how to set it." Sam eyed her skeptically. "You know how to fix this?" "In theory," Sophia admitted, "but it will hurt." "Can't hurt worse than it does now," he said through gritted teeth. "Go ahead." Taking a deep breath, Sophia positioned herself properly, placed her hands as she remembered the doctor doing, and with one swift, firm movement manipulated the joint back into place. Sam's sharp cry of pain cut through her like a knife, but when she looked at his face, relief had replaced the agony. "Better?" she asked anxiously. He moved his arm cautiously. "Much, thank you." Sophia busied herself preparing a sling and brewing willow bark tea for the pain, all too aware of Sam's bare torso and her own flustered reaction to it. She'd known he was strong, had seen the evidence in his work around the homestead, but seeing the lean muscles of his chest and arms, marked here and there with old scars that spoke of a hard life, brought a heat to her cheeks that had nothing to do with the blazing fire. "You should rest," she said, helping him put his shirt back on and arranging the sling. "Take my bed tonight, I'll sleep in the rocking chair." "I won't put you out of your bed," Sam protested. "I can sleep here by the fire with an injured shoulder. You need proper rest." Their eyes met in a silent battle of wills, which Sophia won when Sam sighed in resignation. "Just for tonight," he conceded, "and only because I'm too tired to argue." After helping him to the bedroom, Sophia returned to the main room, adding wood to the fire before settling into the rocking chair with a quilt. Despite her physical exhaustion, sleep eluded her. The image of Sam's face contorted in pain, the feel of his skin beneath her hands, the relief in his eyes when she'd helped him, these sensations circled in her mind, along with the terrifying knowledge that she had come to care for him far more than was wise. The blizzard continued for 3 days, confining them to the cabin. Sam's shoulder improved rapidly under Sophia's care, though she insisted he continue to take the bedroom while she made do with a pallet near the hearth. They spent the long hours in quiet companionship, reading, talking, playing chess with a set Sam carved years ago. On the afternoon of the 3rd day, as Sophia needed bread at the table, Sam watched her from his place by the fire. "You never talk about your life before Wyoming," he observed. "Your family in Boston." Sophia's hands stilled in the dough. "There's not much to tell." "I find that hard to believe," Sam said gently. "You're educated, well-spoken. You know poetry and literature. Someone taught you those things." She resumed kneading, her movements more forceful. "My mother hired tutors. She believed every young lady should be accomplished, regardless of her physical attributes." "She sounds like a wise woman." "She was," Sophia agreed, her voice softening. "She died when I was 16, consumption. My father." She paused, struggling to find words that wouldn't reveal the depth of her pain. "My father had different ideas about my prospects." Sam waited, sensing there was more to the story. "He was ashamed of me," Sophia finally said, her voice barely audible over the crackling fire. "He kept me at home, away from society, said no man would want a wife who would break the furniture." The cruelty of it hung in the air between them. Sam's face darkened with anger. "He was wrong," he said firmly. Sophia gave a bitter laugh. "Was he?" "In 3 years, he couldn't find anyone willing to court me, despite a substantial dowry. After he died and the money was gone, my uncle made it clear I was unmarriageable. That's why he was so quick to trade me away." "Sophia, it's all right," she interrupted, shaping the dough into loaves with quick, efficient movements. "I've accepted what I am." Sam rose from his chair, crossing to the table. "And what is that exactly?" She wouldn't meet his eyes. "You know, fat, undesirable, useful only for cooking and cleaning." "Look at me," Sam said quietly. When she didn't, he gently lifted her chin with his good hand, forcing her to meet his gaze. "You are so much more than that." Something in his voice, a warmth, an intensity, made Sophia's breath catch in her throat. They stood frozen in that moment, his fingers still lightly touching her chin, her hands dusted with flour, the bread forgotten between them. Then the spell broke as one of the horses whinnied loudly from the barn, startling them both. Sam stepped back, clearing his throat. "I should check on them," he said. "The storm's easing." After he left, Sophia leaned against the table, her heart racing. She was imagining things, she told herself firmly. Sam was kind, that was all. To see more in his words or touch was to set herself up for crushing disappointment. By the following morning, the storm had passed, leaving the valley transformed into a dazzling white expanse beneath a brilliant blue sky. Sam announced he would attempt the journey to town again. "We need supplies," he insisted when Sophia expressed concern. "The trail should be passable now, and the days only get shorter from here." This time, his journey was successful. He returned 2 days later with the wagon loaded with provisions, Sophia's requested yarn and cinnamon, and news from town. "Your uncle has left Jackson," he told her as they unpacked the supplies. "Sold his place and headed back east, from what I heard." Sophia paused in arranging canned goods on the pantry shelves. "I'm not sure whether to be relieved or hurt that he left without even trying to find me." "He asked about you before he left," Sam admitted reluctantly. "Came to the general store while I was there, wanted to know if you were still working for me." "What did you tell him? The truth? That you're a valued employee and doing well?" Sam hesitated. He seemed genuinely relieved to hear it. Sophia nodded slowly, processing this. "I suppose that's something, at least." "There's more," Sam continued, looking uncomfortable. "He left something for you with Mr. Peterson at the store." He reached into his coat pocket and withdrew a small velvet pouch. Sophia took it warily, loosening the drawstring to reveal a pair of pearl earrings, her mother's, which she'd been forced to leave behind when her uncle traded her away. "He said they belonged to your mother," Sam explained. "That you should have them." Tears welled in Sophia's eyes as she cradled the pearls in her palm. They weren't valuable, not monetarily, but they had adorned her mother's ears at every special occasion of Sophia's childhood. The fact that her uncle had thought to return them suggested a shred of humanity she hadn't believed he possessed. "Thank you for bringing these," she said softly. Sam nodded, then turned away to continue unpacking, giving her privacy with her emotions. That night after dinner, Sophia worked on knitting a scarf with her new yarn while Sam read by the fire. The domesticity of the scene struck her suddenly, how natural it felt to share this space with him, to move around each other with the easy familiarity of long acquaintance rather than the mere 4 months they'd known each other. "Sam," she said impulsively, "would you teach me to ride?" He looked up from his book, surprised. "To ride a horse?" "No, a buffalo," she retorted, making him smile. "Of course a horse. Any particular reason?" Sophia considered how to explain the restlessness that had been growing in her since the blizzard, a need to expand her world beyond the cabin and garden. "I've never learned. In Boston, it wasn't considered appropriate for someone of my size. But here, it seems like a useful skill. And I'd like to see more of the valley than I can on foot." Sam studied her thoughtfully. "It won't be easy. Learning to ride never is." "Are you saying I'm too heavy for your horses?" she challenged, the old insecurity flaring. "Not at all," he replied calmly. "My draft horse could carry 2 of you without noticing. I'm saying riding takes strength, balance, and determination, all of which you have in abundance, by the way." The unexpected compliment caught Sophia off guard. "Oh, we can start tomorrow if you like," Sam offered. "With Duke. He's steady and patient, perfect for a beginner." True to his word, the next morning found them in the corral with Duke, a placid chestnut gelding with gentle eyes. Sam had fashioned a makeshift side saddle, explaining that it would be easier for Sophia given her skirts. "The key is to not show fear," he instructed as he adjusted the saddle. Horses sense your emotions. If you're nervous, they get nervous. Sophia eyed Duke's considerable height with trepidation. That's easier said than done. Sam smiled encouragingly. Trust me, and trust Duke. He's carried loads much heavier than you. The first attempt to mount was a mortifying failure. Despite Sam's help, Sophia couldn't coordinate the movement properly. Her skirts tangled around her legs, her weight throwing her off balance. After the third unsuccessful try, she was ready to give up, humiliation burning in her cheeks. This is ridiculous, she said, stepping back from the horse. I'm too fat for this. Nonsense, Sam replied firmly. The problem isn't your weight, it's your approach. Here, let me show you. He repositioned the mounting block, demonstrated the proper foot placement, and then stood beside her. Now put your left foot in the stirrup, hold the saddle here, and on 3, push up and swing your right leg over. I'll help lift you. You'll hurt yourself, Sophia protested. I'm stronger than I look, Sam assured her. Trust me. Taking a deep breath, Sophia followed his instructions. On 3, she pushed up with her left leg while Sam's strong hands at her waist provided the additional lift she needed. A moment of ungraceful struggling later, she found herself seated in the saddle, breathless but triumphant. I did it, she exclaimed, gripping the saddle horn tightly. Sam's smile was as bright as the winter sun overhead. I never doubted you would. For the next hour, Sam led Duke around the corral at a walk, teaching Sophia the basics of balance and control. Despite her initial fears, she found herself relaxing into the rhythm of the horse's movement, enjoying the new perspective from horseback. You're a natural, Sam commented as he helped her dismount at the end of the lesson. His hands lingered at her waist a moment longer than necessary, and when Sophia met his eyes, she found a warmth there that made her heart skip. Thank you for teaching me, she said softly. Sam tucked a strand of hair that had escaped her bun behind her ear, the gesture so tender it made her breath catch. My pleasure. Over the following weeks, riding lessons became part of their daily routine. Sophia proved to be an apt pupil, soon graduating from the corral to short rides along the valley floor. Despite the winter cold, she looked forward to these outings not just for the freedom riding gave her, but for the time spent with Sam, whose quiet instruction and unfailing patience only deepened her growing feelings for him. As Christmas approached, Sophia secretly worked on gifts for Sam during the hours he spent in the barn or new cabin. She knitted him a warm scarf, sewed a new shirt from fabric she'd ordered from town, and baked his favorite molasses cookies to be presented on Christmas morning. The day before Christmas Eve, Sam announced he needed to make a final trip to Jackson. I'll be back by nightfall tomorrow, he promised. Don't worry, the weather's clear and I know the trail well now. After he left, Sophia threw herself into preparations. She decorated the cabin with pine boughs gathered from nearby trees, polished the rarely used good dishes, and began cooking the special meal she planned for Christmas Eve. True to his word, Sam returned just as dusk was falling on Christmas Eve. Sophia heard the wagon approaching and hurried to the door, eager to show him the decorated cabin. But when she opened it, she found not just Sam but a tall pine tree in the wagon bed. What's this? She asked, laughing in delight. Can't have Christmas without a proper tree, Sam replied, his cheeks ruddy from the cold. Help me bring it in. Together, they wrestled the tree into the cabin, setting it up in the corner Sam had cleared earlier. From the wagon, he produced a small box containing simple ornaments, wooden stars, pine cones dipped in wax, and small red berries strung on thread. These were my mother's, he explained as they decorated the tree. She insisted on a proper Christmas, no matter where we were living. She sounds wonderful, Sophia said softly. She was. Sam hung the last ornament, a carved wooden horse. She would have liked you. Sophia blushed at the unexpected compliment. I wish I could have met her. They stood back to admire the tree, its beauty enhanced by the simplicity of its decorations. In the firelight, with the smell of pine filling the cabin and the dinner simmering on the stove, Sophia felt a happiness so complete it brought tears to her eyes. Are you all right? Sam asked, noticing her emotion. She nodded, wiping away a stray tear. Just happy. This is the nicest Christmas I've had in a very long time. For me too, he admitted. His gaze lingered on her face, something unspoken in his expression. Then, clearing his throat, he said, I should wash up before dinner. The Christmas Eve meal was everything Sophia had hoped: roast venison, potatoes, winter vegetables preserved from the garden, and a special apple pie for dessert. They ate by candlelight, the tree glowing in the corner, conversation flowing easily between them. After dinner they sat by the fire, the comfortable silence of long companionship enveloping them. Finally, Sam spoke. I have something for you, he said, reaching into his pocket. I was going to wait until morning, but... He withdrew a small package wrapped in brown paper and string. Sophia accepted it with trembling fingers, but we agreed no gifts until tomorrow. Sam's smile was slightly nervous. This one couldn't wait. Carefully, Sophia unwrapped the package to reveal a small wooden box, intricately carved with a pattern of roses. Inside, nestled on a bed of soft cloth, lay a delicate gold locket on a fine chain. Oh, Sam, she breathed, lifting it carefully. It's beautiful. Open it, he urged. Inside the locket was a miniature painting of the cabin, so detailed she could make out the smoke curling from the chimney and the flowers that had bloomed in her garden last summer. I commissioned it from an artist in Jackson, Sam explained. So no matter what happens, you'll always have this place with you. Sophia looked up, confused. What do you mean, no matter what happens? Sam took a deep breath, suddenly serious. I've been offered a contract to supply horses to the cavalry. It would mean traveling to Fort Laramie in the spring, possibly being gone for several months. He hesitated. I wanted you to know that this is still your home, whether I'm here or not. The thought of Sam leaving, of months alone in the cabin, sent a chill through Sophia despite the warmth of the fire. I see, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. That's a wonderful opportunity for you. I haven't accepted yet, Sam said, watching her closely. I wanted to talk to you first. Why, it's your business, your decision. Because what happens here affects you too. He moved closer, taking her hands in his. Sophia, these past months with you have been the happiest of my life. She stared at him, scarcely breathing, afraid to hope. I've been trying to find the right way to tell you, Sam continued, his voice low and earnest. When I traded Thunder for you, I told your uncle it was a fair trade for me. I meant it then, but I had no idea how true it would become. What are you saying, Sam? Sophia whispered. He reached up to touch her cheek, his eyes never leaving hers. I'm saying that I love you, that I want you here not as my housekeeper but as my wife if you'll have me. Sophia's heart seemed to stop, then race ahead like a runaway horse. But you can't. I'm not. If you're about to say anything about your size, Sam interrupted gently, save your breath. I love you exactly as you are. Your kindness, your courage, your spirit, everything about you. Tears spilled down Sophia's cheeks. Do you really mean that? With all my heart, Sam assured her. I've been half in love with you since the day I found you in Wilkes's cookhouse, trying to maintain your dignity despite everything. Completely in love with you since the blizzard, when you set my shoulder and then insisted on sleeping in that uncomfortable rocking chair so I could have your bed. A laugh bubbled up through Sophia's tears. That chair is terribly uncomfortable. I know, Sam smiled, wiping away her tears with his thumb. I've been building us a bigger bed in the new cabin, one sturdy enough for two, but I'll only finish it if you say yes." In answer, Sophia leaned forward and pressed her lips to his. Sam responded immediately, drawing her closer, his kiss conveying all the love and desire she'd never believed a man could feel for her. When they finally parted, both breathless, Sophia whispered, "Yes." Outside, snow began to fall softly, dusting the valley in a fresh coat of white. Inside the cabin, by the light of the Christmas tree and the glowing hearth, Sam slipped the gold chain over Sophia's head, the locket coming to rest against her heart, a promise of the home and love she had found in this remote corner of Wyoming territory, with a man who saw her true worth. 3 years later, Sophia Carter sat in the rocking chair on the porch of the expanded cabin, watching her husband work with a spirited young colt in the corral nearby. At her breast, their 2-month-old son, Michael, nursed contentedly, his tiny hand curled around her finger. The homestead had prospered under their joint care. Sam's reputation as a horse breeder had grown, bringing steady income and respect in the territory. Sophia's garden had expanded into a productive small farm, with surplus vegetables sold in Jackson each summer. The cabin now boasted 3 rooms, their bedroom, the main living area, and a small nursery for Michael. "Look who's coming," Sam called, pointing to the trail where a wagon approached. Sophia shaded her eyes against the afternoon sun, recognizing the Petersons from town. Martha Peterson had become a good friend over the years, one of several neighbors who had welcomed Sophia warmly once they got to know her. "They're early," Sophia commented as Sam joined her on the porch. "Dinner isn't for another hour." Sam kissed her temple, then gently stroked their son's downy head. "I'll tell them. You stay put." The Petersons weren't the only guests expected that evening. The Hargroves, the Wilsons, and Elmer, now retired from the Double W Ranch and living in a small cabin on Carter land, were all coming to celebrate Sam and Sophia's 3rd wedding anniversary. As Sam greeted the Petersons, helping Martha down from the wagon, Sophia reflected on how much had changed. The shy, ashamed girl who had arrived in Wyoming, traded for a horse and considered worthless, had blossomed into a confident woman, secure in her husband's love and respected in the community for her own merits. She still struggled sometimes with old insecurities. Her body had grown larger with pregnancy, and though Sam assured her constantly of his attraction to her, occasionally she caught herself wondering how a man so handsome could desire her. But those moments grew rarer as their life together deepened. Sam returned to the porch, Martha Peterson beside him carrying a covered dish. "I brought my blackberry cobbler," she announced, "and Thomas has news from town." Thomas Peterson joined them, removing his hat respectfully. "Thaddeus Wilkes is dead," he reported. "Heart gave out last week." "They're selling off the Double W piece by piece." Sophia felt a complex mixture of emotions at this news. Wilkes had treated her as property, yet without his actions, she might never have met Sam. "I heard something else might interest you, Sam," Thomas continued. "They're auctioning off all his horses, including that big black stallion he got from Everett Johnson years back." Sam and Sophia exchanged a meaningful look. Thunder the horse Sam had traded to secure Sophia's freedom had ended up at the Double W after Everett Johnson sold him to pay gambling debts. "Might be worth looking into," Sam said casually, but Sophia recognized the gleam in his eye. Later that night, after their guests had departed and Michael slept peacefully in his cradle, Sophia and Sam stood on the porch, his arm around her waist as they gazed at the star-filled sky. "You want to buy Thunder back, don't you?" Sophia asked softly. Sam chuckled. "Am I that transparent?" "Only to me." She turned in his arms to face him. You should do it. Bring him home. You wouldn't mind. It would take a fair bit of our savings." Sophia reached up to touch his beloved face, tracing the laugh lines that had deepened over their years together. "He belongs here with us." After all, without Thunder, none of this would have happened. Sam pulled her closer, his love evident in the tenderness of his embrace. "Best trade I ever made," he murmured against her hair. "Fair trade for me, too," Sophia whispered back, standing on tiptoe to kiss the man who had seen her true value when no one else had, the man who had given her not just a home, but a life filled with love, purpose, and belonging. As they walked hand in hand back into the warmth of their cabin, Sophia's free hand drifted to the gold locket that still hung around her neck, a constant reminder that sometimes the most unexpected beginnings lead to the most beautiful journeys. A week later, Sam returned from the Double W auction leading a magnificent black stallion. Though older now, Thunder still moved with the proud bearing that had made him so valuable years ago. Sophia stood in the yard, Michael in her arms, watching as horse and rider approached. "Welcome home, Thunder," she called. Sam dismounted, his face alight with boyish pleasure as he led the stallion to her. "He remembered me," he said wonderingly. "Came right to me in the pen before I'd even made a bid." Thunder sniffed curiously at Michael, making the baby giggle and reach out a tiny hand toward the velvety nose. Sophia felt her heart swell with joy at the completion of their circle, the horse that had begun their story now part of their family again. That night, as they lay together in the sturdy bed Sam had built with his own hands, Sophia rested her head on her husband's chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. "I've been thinking," Sam said, his fingers gently stroking her hair. "Thunder's getting older, but he's still a fine stallion. We could start breeding him with some of our mares, establish a line of horses with his qualities." "Thunder's legacy," Sophia suggested, "a fitting tribute." Sam's arms tightened around her. "To the best decision I ever made." Sophia agreed sleepily. "Trading your best stallion for a fat girl." "No," Sam corrected, tilting her face up to his. "Trading him for the woman who would become my heart, my home, and the mother of my children." "Children?" Sophia raised an eyebrow. "Feeling optimistic, are we?" Sam's smile was tender as his hand moved to rest gently on her stomach. "Just hopeful. Michael should have brothers and sisters to grow up with." Sophia covered his hand with hers, a secret smile playing at her lips. "Well, in that case, I should tell you that your hopes may be realized sooner than you think." Sam stared at her for a moment, comprehension dawning in his eyes. "Are you saying?" She nodded, joy bubbling up inside her. "Dr. Wilson confirmed it when he was here last week. Next spring, Michael will have a little brother or sister." With a whoop of delight, Sam gathered her into his arms, peppering her face with kisses until she was laughing breathlessly. "You wonderful, amazing woman," he murmured between kisses. "Have I told you today how much I love you?" "Yes," Sophia replied, her heart full to bursting. "But I'll never tire of hearing it." Outside, a soft spring rain began to fall, nurturing the valley that had become their home. Inside, wrapped in each other's arms, Sam and Sophia Carter drifted to sleep, secure in the knowledge that their love, born of an unconventional trade and nurtured through hardship and joy alike, would continue to grow, as enduring as the Wyoming landscape that had brought them together. And in the barn, Thunder settled into his new stall, home at last with the man who had raised him and the family that would carry his legacy forward, all because a cowboy had once looked at a horse, then at a woman society deemed worthless, and declared it a fair trade indeed.